To introduce our first speaker. His name is Prakasatma Prabhu. He, like I said, he joined the movement when he was 15 and met with. Please forgive me if I get this wrong. I've just got these from someone else. So he joined the movement when he was 15, spent many years with Srila Prabhupada in serving him, and then has his own church. If I'm right, you're a pastor and has his own church, and basically combines the Gaudiya Vaishnav philosophy in the movement of getting closer to Jesus Christ and the real meaning of why Jesus came to this earth. So it's a beautiful combination. And then you've got Malati Didi, who's always inviting Vaishnavas over and serving them so wonderfully. For many years, she's so welcoming and loving and very encouraging to many other devotees that come and visit France and are there in France. So if without further ado, Prakasatma Prabhu, if you could take center stage.
No, you can.
Oh, can you hear me? Yes? Okay.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. So, Banchakalpa Tarubhyacha Kripa Sindhu Bhyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Gaurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadaraye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namaha. So I know it's a centennial of Gurudeva, but I wanted to say a few words about Srila Prabhupada. And as some kind of sharing memories, I know Gurudev didn't like it so much. He didn't like we share memories. He wanted for the presentation of Prabhupada disappearance, for example, he wanted us to establish tattva. But it is also something very personal. And I think by hearing the different devotees previous weeks, it's interesting to see how they met Gurudev or how they met pure Vaishnava. So I heard the first time the Maha Mantra on the radio in 1971. It was My Sweet Lord by George Harrison. And a year later, in 72, I went to England, Manchester, and I saw the devotees there, the brahmacharis, dancing in the street. And I went to them and I bought a book, Easy Journey to Other Planets, because I liked the picture of the yogi and Radha Krishna. But I didn't understand English at that time. I just was looking at the picture, and for many months, I just looked at the picture, and on the back there was a picture of Srila Prabhupada, and I was very impressed by the very long title and the long name, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and I learned it by heart somehow. And a few months later, I met lady devotees. She was distributing some books in the train station. And I don't know why, but she asked me, she showed me the picture of Prabhupada and she said, do you know this person? And I said, yes, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And so she said, he was just here a few months ago. He was just in Paris a few months ago. Anyway, I got the invitation card and I went to the temple. And the first time I went to the temple, it was on Gopurnim. And then I met the devotees. I bought another book also that was in English because there was no French books at that time. And a few months later, I shaved up my very long hair. So I had a very long shika all the way up to the middle of the back. And at first I was doing some, after I learned that to distribute books was very pleasing to Srila Prabhupada. So I started doing this, even though not my I didn't have in separation. And also this lifestyle we had as brahmachari was very, very austere. We had nothing, we had no money, and we were sleeping on the bare floor without pillow or anything, just a sleeping bag, and waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, taking a cold shower, and work all day long, sleeping only 6 hours, work all day long. And when we were traveling, we were living in a van, sleeping in a van and taking a shower outside with the cold water in the field. All day long, we were wearing dhoti and shaved heads at that time. And we could see the working of the Bhagavad Gita in action, through the world, through the people, the three modes of nature. You could see all this in action. And the teaching of Srila Prabhupada was getting more and more into our heart as we were seeing this. At the same time, this seva is everybody who has lived this book distribution for the service of Srila Prabhupada, they could agree with me that we felt we were connected with him. He said, my standing instruction for all of my disciples is to preach and distribute my books. So finally, in June or July of 1974, I finally met Srila Prabhupada in Geneva, Switzerland. And it was the first time I saw him. I was in the temple room. We were only 4 or 5 devotees in Geneva at that time. Some other devotees have come over from different parts of Europe to start with, but really we were just a bunch of, just few devotees. And when Prabhupada entered the room, I felt like he was not touching the floor. Like I felt like he was floating over the floor. There was something majestic about him. I heard so much about him, and I seen his picture many times, and I read his books as I learned English also by reading the books and hearing his kirtans, but I've never seen him in person. And so it was very impressive to see him. And when he sat on a chair on the Vyasasan and we were offering some flowers, I could see the deep compassion he had for young people. It's like he understood everything that I've been through and how difficult it could have been. My life before I was a devotee, I could see in his eyes such deep compassion and deep concern with me and another young boy also. And the next morning, we were walking with him. I was walking behind, and it was a little chilly. And I felt I'm not this body. I only had a coat on me. I am not this body. I should not feel cold. And Prabhupada was walking. As I was thinking like this, he stopped and he turned around to me and he said, "Are you feeling cold?" And I was really surprised that he not only knew what I was thinking, but also that he was concerned. And he talked to me. He asked me how I felt, but I felt speechless because I couldn't. It was the very first time that I met him, and I often felt that I was nobody. And Prabhupada, he has noticed me the very first time I encountered him. And after some days, many devotees, they left. And we were just 4 or 5 devotees there with Srila Prabhupada. And there are many other stories linked to this, but I will leave it. It's not important. He was very, very concerned. He was very, very concerned with all the devotees and all the guests that came to see him. finally, when he went to the airport, there was one sannyasi there also who stayed behind, Pushta Krishna Swami. And we went to, at that time, we could go into the airport and do a kirtan. So we started doing a kirtan. We saw Prabhupada going into the plane, and we were doing a kirtan, and then the plane took off, and we were still chanting. And until we would not see the plane anymore. And Pushta Krishna Swami, he said, the gopis, when Krishna was taken away by Akrura to Mathura, they actually stayed behind and they were watching the chariot until they couldn't see even the flag. So he was comparing the departure of Srila Prabhupada in the same way as the gopis seeing Krishna departing. Of course, I saw him just right afterwards because he went to Paris and there I got initiated. And then after that, he went to another place. And again, for another year, I was engaged in doing just seva and distributing books. At that time, those who were leaders and in charge of temples and in charge of different project, they were telling us not to go see Srila Prabhupada and bother him without questions, not to touch his feet. We were not allowed to touch his feet, and just to wait until Prabhupada will come back in our country. That was kind of frustrating for me because I knew there was something more that I wanted. And at one point I went to India. And at that time, the plane were not stopping in Delhi, but in Bombay. And I wanted to go to Vrindavan, and I wanted to see Srila Prabhupada also in Vrindavan. So, but because I arrived at 4 o'clock in the morning, I went to the deities and some apartments. And when I came, Lokanath Swami was there. He had just taken sannyas and he said, oh, you have come to see Srila Prabhupada. He's here in Bombay. So then I was stuck in Bombay because Prabhupada was there and I had the chance of having more association with him. Of course, many times because I was just a small devotee, I was asked to stay behind to do some seva instead of walking with Srila Prabhupada on the beach. But I got an occasion or two to do that too also. And when I was walking along the other beach in Juhu with Srila Prabhupada, I felt like I was one of the disciples with Jesus, because it felt like this, the holy man. Prabhupada had such an aura. He had such something that was glowing out of him. And I really felt this was really someone unique. And not only this, but he had this very strong ability to read people's mind and to read my mind in particular. One time I was thinking, I had bad thoughts in my mind. I was actually feeling some lust for some reason. And Srila Prabhupada immediately said, just like if someone is obsessed with sex, he will think of that all the time. He said, as I was thinking that, and I felt so ashamed, I cannot hide anything from my spiritual master. He knows everything. And and that happened many times, actually. Not luckily not on bad thoughts, but I will be thinking of something and Srila Prabhupada will be speaking about it immediately. And many devotees have said the same thing. One devotee told me, he was also in Bombay, he saw Srila Prabhupada coming down the stairs and he said, oh, this man looks like a king. Srila Prabhupada came to him and said, I am not your king, I am your spiritual master. And this, some devotees actually asked him, they wrote him a letter and said, can the spiritual master know the heart of all his disciples? And Srila Prabhupada, he dictated this answer to his servant saying, yes, a pure devotee can easily understand or know the heart of all his disciples. So the servant said, I'm going to write this. And he said, no, I said a pure devotee can do this. I am not a pure devotee. I am not even a devotee. I am aspiring to be a devotee. This was Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada, he had such a deep humility. I saw him also in Bombay when it was the appearance of his spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He put his picture on the Vyasastan and Prabhupada sat on the floor. And he glorified his spiritual master. And at the end, he said, my spiritual master has saved my life. And he started crying. And I was so moved to see such a person who could be my grandfather and who has so much wisdom and so much, he was so fine in everything he was doing, had such emotion. And one time I read something in the Chaitanya Charitamritam, they had just been published. And I read Prabhupada was writing in the purport, if you think that there are no qualified person in this movement, you can come directly to see the Guru. So I told this to my brother, Haridas, the Indian Haridas, and he didn't believe it. He said, no, it cannot be. But I said, I just read it. So I dare asking Srila Prabhupada in the evening darshan about this quote. And Srila Prabhupada, he confirmed exactly everything that I have been saying because it is his books. And it is the proof that actually the spiritual master and his writings are non-different. He often said, try to associate with my Vani, not my Vapu. Try to associate with what I say, my instruction, not my physical body. Of course, this association with the physical body is also very important. That quote was actually there for some reason. If you think there are no qualified people in this movement, meaning the ISKCON movement, you can come and directly associate with the spiritual master. Some devotees have done that. I know Harikesh, that's what he did. He had some problem with some management in New York, and he went directly to the feet of Srila Prabhupada and became his personal secretary. But I felt so inadequate. I had very low self-confidence at that time. And because all my God brothers and God sisters were much older than me, 7, 8, 10 years older at least, if not more, they are my heroes. And what is like Jan Swami, Chutananda Swami, like great heroes, both for Kirtan and for their understanding of Bhagavan, who was in charge of France. He had such good confidence in himself. He was very impressive to me. And also other devotees, even women devotees, Adani and Yamuna. I had great admiration for all these devotees that I couldn't feel that no one qualified in this movement. I should go and be only with Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada, he was so expert through these devotees in guiding us. He was so sharp, so straightforward. I've rarely seen someone that lucid and that straightforward. Americans are known. I live in America for a long time. They're also very straightforward. They tell you what they think, but they're usually like bullies, like very harsh people. But Srila Prabhupada, he could say things that could offend people in such a way that they would not feel offended. And I've seen in the video when he comes to Australia, one lady, she's keeping on asking him, why are you being driven in such a beautiful car? The devotees had hired a Rolls Royce for some reason, and Prabhupada has accepted. And so why are you traveling in such? So he said, well, that's my mercy to them. If you do something to please me and I accept it, that's my mercy to you. And Prabhupada at one point, he said, you're asking this question because you are envious. And that lady reporter, she said, yes, she recognized it because Prabhupada has such a way of telling things that actually people would not feel offended. And so, and sometimes, even when they felt a little disturbed or offended, it was to wake them up. One time, one devotee, he was a butcher before. And Srila Prabhupada, during the initiation, where he was giving the beads, but as he was giving the beads, he withdrew back his hands. He would not let the person, the devotee, touch the beads. And he asked him, are you gonna kill more animals? And he said, no, Srila Prabhupada, no, this is finished. And Prabhupada was like this sometimes. He will put you on the spot. He will chastise you, or he will be very stern just to wake you up or to make you curious. Brahmananda, when he was a young devotee, he gave all his belongings, everything. He went to the bank, he had some money, he gave everything to Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, thank you very much. At that time, Prabhupada had come with three books of the Kent, and so Brahmananda thought, because he gave all his economy to Srila Prabhupada, that he would give these books, but he didn't. And so at one point, Brahmananda, he said, what about the books? So Prabhupada said, oh, these are extra. You can pay. He said, these are extra. You can pay for them. But then Brahmananda said, I gave you all my economy. How am I going to pay for that? And Prabhupada said, oh, it's okay. You can pay by, later on you can pay little by little. And he was completely blown out. I said, why is he doing this? I gave all my money and he cannot give me 3 of his books in exchange. But later on he understood mental knowledge cannot be purchased that way. And you have to understand the meaning of guru. Guru means heavy. Guru doesn't mean heavy like someone was crushing you down, but guru means heavy in a sense that he's giving you the highest understanding of the spiritual truth. So Srila Prabhupada, he was like this. He was also very kind and very loving to his disciple. He used to say, the spiritual master is as hard as a thunderbolt and as soft as a flower. And he loved his disciple very much, even though sometimes he was very demanding. So in Jagannath Puri, Prabhupada said, I went twice in Jagannath Puri when I was a young man, and now he came back in 77 when he's an old man. And he refused to enter the Jagannath temple. He told the priest, you don't let my disciple, my white disciple, enter the temple. I will not go also. Because he had he was very concerned about his disciple. Srila Prabhupada, he also wanted, when he was ill, when he was demonstrating his last pastime, he wanted to do the parikram of Govardhan, but they would not let. His disciples said, you will not be able to bear this kind of journey. He wanted to go on the bullock cart. And so when he passed away, they did the parikram for him. They did the parikram for him. He went everything to visit all the holy places of Vrindavan. At that time, I was barely 20, and I thought foolishly that Prabhupada will not leave us, because he had been sick many times before and we were always praying, and he will be recovering. And actually he said before going, 2 weeks before going, he said, I had a dream. I was with Krishna, and Krishna gave me the choice. I can stay 10 more years to help you, he said to his disciple, or I can leave right away. And he asked all these GBCs, big important people, you decide. And it took some time for them to decide, which is surprising for me, but finally they said, we want you to stay. And so as naive as I was, I thought that Srila Prabhupada would have stayed 10 more years. And he didn't. He left us. And to me, it was, I understand this prayer that Raghunath Das Goswami is doing, or some other Vaishnava, I think is Narottam Das Thakur. I want to slash my head on a stone out of separation. I felt totally depressed after Prabhupada left, because this was all we knew about what is the pure devotees. And of course, many charismatic leaders then became gurus after, but it was not the same. And I had deep regrets, very deep regrets, because I didn't know the importance of sadhu sangha at that time. I've learned this from Srila Gurudev, but I didn't know at that time. And I had deep regret, sharp pain in my heart. I also understood that my training as a brahmachari was like years. I even start again consuming drugs and alcohol, and I was in a very desperate condition. I stayed, in ISKCON for 4 more years, but I just couldn't handle it anymore, and I left. But somehow or other, I met Srila Prabhupada again in the books of Srila Maharaj. Srila Maharaj. Srila Maharaj saved my life because he was so compassionate to fallen devotees like me. Some devotees also had problems like I did, smoking hashish and stuff like this. And always no big problem. And time chanting rounds, he said, you can 16 rounds, you can chant 4 rounds. And he showed that compassion that I've seen in Prabhupada and which I have not seen in others. And he saved my life, even though I still had problems for many, many years until I met Srila Gurudev. But this is my memory. It's nothing really interesting, but I just wanted to share that. Thank you very much. Panchakalpa tarubhya kripa sindhu bhaya vacha patitaram pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And you're saying that it's nothing, but actually what you shared it just shows the depth of the compassion of Sri Guru, whether that be Srila Prabhupada, whether that be Srila Gurudev, whether that be Srila Bhakti Rakshakshridhar Maharaj, the compassion and the love and affection that they have for us is unimaginable. And it's uncountable. And the reason why we did this memory programs is so that we could realize the depths of these Vaishnavas that have come into our lives. And we, sometimes I take for granted how fortunate I am, or how rare it is for someone to have association with such a high-class Vaishnav, someone from that realm that's come to save me. So these things that you're expressing or you've told are things that are just showing that how compassionate our Guru Varga is and how compassionate Srila Prabhupada was. And I also heard today only that those Western devotees that weren't allowed to go to Jagannath Puri, Srila Swami Maharaj made that Jagannath, Baladev and Subhadra and Bhuveshwar, and he said that anyone that can't go to visit Jagannath in Jagannath Puri can come here and it will be the same. So that's the compassion and love and affection that they had. So absolutely beautiful, and I really appreciate you sharing that with us. So thank you so much for that.